You were working all this time? Huh? Ah, yes, it was quiet. So I was able to make a fine progress. Did you look outside? Outside? The scenery is quite amazing. Ah, yes. Oh, I see. You would have seen this from your way from Terra. It's probably stranger for a lunar-born to have never seen a lunar surface. No, I don't believe so. Ellen laughed awkwardly. Since she'd been up to her neck in work, she probably hadn't switched over to mentally yet. Still, we'll probably see it again on the way back. That's true. How long will it take once we're at the way station? Refueling and resupplying shall take probably about 2 hours. But after that it'll be about an hour. To the ends of the world. When I said that, Eleanor only smiled. I thought I'd grab a bite to eat, but we're almost there. The clock display on the wall showed our arrival time. Less than 15 minutes to go. There are meals supplied on board for that. There are stores on the way station too, it appears. Set up for extraterrestrials then. My goodness, Haru. Are you the type to believe in extraterrestrials? If we're talking in terms of probability, such an unerring response. I'm disappointed. Then what would it Heron one be? Wouldn't we certainly be extraterrestrials? When I stroked my shoulders, Eleanor cheerfully laughed. The ship landed automatically and the door opened. I watched the landing through the window. The way station was a perfect scale replica of the lunar capital, complete with multiple boarding gates and extending out from a central dome like arms of an octopus. There was another building visible nearby. According to the map, it seemed like some sort of research facility. It had said there were restaurants. It appears to be researching vending machines. Eleanor spoke as she entered the way station, with its meagre number of benches and massive monitors in its lobby. To think there would all be vending machines. Eleanor said in shock, because before her eyes was divided space filled with vending machines. There was a sign with Auto Eatery written on it, and the word Tasty flashing with a tacky pattern. This is pretty outer spacey, isn't it? I'm implying this was concocted by Terran. You're a bit on edge. I was rather looking forward to it. She closed her eyes and made a disappointed gesture as if to say, honestly. It must have been Eleanor's fault that Marco was retrified. It may be better when you expect. Also, you can't eat this stuff in the city, right? Well, that is true. It's really expensive too. It's probably quite a hassle to send stock out here. Which one are you getting? All of them seem rather... She gave a rather frank impression, so I chose the one I least wanted. Sushi. Look at her face there. I think it says it all, doesn't it? Eleanor looked at what clunked out of the machine as though it was some sort of alien egg. She didn't scream aloud, but I could see it in her eyes. Freeze-dried. Guess fresh would be out of the question. Are we really going to eat that? You don't like sushi? I heard it was rather popular in Terra. But doesn't look like the sushi I know. Rather conservative about food. My attempt at revenge of what happened to the ship made Eleanor wrinkle her chin in frustration. You never know. I opened the wrapping with a Turu written on it. It looked extremely normal, but it felt like a clumpy cereal when I held it in my hand. And then I stuffed it in my mouth. It crunched. I hummed through my nose. She lowered her eyebrow as she looked at me. I shoved a box over to her. She peered into a box out of what appeared to be glossy sushi, then looked back at me. When she looked back at sushi again, hesitantly taking the omelette one. That one should at least be better than the raw ones. That's probably what she thought, but I looked down at the box, taking my eyes off Eleanor, as she tossed her sushi into her mouth with finesse. She instantly realised it was futile. She groaned, covering her mouth. I dropped the facade of pretending to be okay, instantly pouring contents of a can of juice into my expressionless mouth. She crouched down and didn't move. I dumped the remaining contents of the trash and handed her the empty box. She ran off a bit. That was mean, Haru. When she came back, she was glaring at me. The empty sushi box that had been in Eleanor's hand was nowhere to be seen. You are truly cruel. Isn't it annoying being the only one who has to suffer? And enough of her jokes, let's eat something decent. When I said that, Eleanor's gaze moved to a vending machine corner. There's nothing decent to eat here. That's what expressions seemed to say. Risa had me bring an apple pie. Let's eat that. You really are about to make me angry. But now if this manufacturer advertised their sushi as being popular with workers on the moon, you know they're lying, right? That's true. No analyst would come all the way out here to just eat this. This was a valuable experience. I'll agree that it was a rare one. I was thinking of bringing one back as a gift. She said nothing and just sighed. We then laid out the apple pie in a corner of the lobby, brewed some black tea with water boiled on a ship. Seems that Eleanor had it loaded onto a ship. Unmanned here. Reese had really taken Eleanor's praise to heart. Went all out this time. It must have tasted great as Eleanor was quickly back in good spirits. The write-up said they had a guide on site here though. There was a notice saying it was at a nearby way station. It probably gets lonely here. This is a rather curious place. As she said that, she looked over towards the oddly sized deserted lobby. The view from the second floor was pretty good. The dome portion is all glass. Huh? There's a rest area up there which is a little nicer. The dome appeared to be a planetarium. Is that so? She said that with a smile, but it seemed somewhat awkward. There are monitors here. She followed up with that. I see. I didn't really feel like forcing her to go look, so that was all I said. After eating the apple pie, Eleanor stared dimly at the program displayed on a monitor. Probably because she'd spent all her time on ship working. It seems a protest was held in Lunar City about the energy price increase. And it had been a while since the last protest. It was getting a lot of attention. But no matter how they tried to spin it, it still looked like the street wasn't so much full of people dissatisfied with energy costs, as of curious spectators looking on at this rare sight. I watched along with Eleanor for a bit, then looked around the facilities a bit more. It was a two-storey building, with a first floor containing the front lobby, lounge and showers, and an evacuation room labelled in case of emergency. The manual door shutting mechanism inside ensured safety. If something happened here, 2,000 kilometres from the Lunar City, all one can do is escape into a small spot and await rescue. I tapped lightly onto a door of the evacuation room. It was probably the size of a space I was holed up in for those 4 years. In retrospect, I felt a bit like an idiot. Came all this way to settle what happened 4 years ago. Felt like running into this was meant to insinuate something. I could almost get myself to smile. It wasn't pleasant, but it was calming. It was a sensation similar to a prospect of finally being able to liquidate that huge stock portfolio I'd been holding on to. It took 4 years. It hit me hard just how long time it had been. I walked down the corridor and ended up in the excessively large lobby. Eleanor was still on the bench gazing at a monitor. I think we should get moving. Is it that time already? She checked the time on her wristwatch, a rather old-fashioned thing as she stood up from her bench. It'll be about an hour from here into our destination. She's not wearing a watch. Then dinner will be over there. You certainly do talk a lot about food. She said that with a slight cringe. Then, shall we talk about Avalon? When I made that cool remark, Eleanor raised her chin defiantly, still cringing, but exhaled through her nose as if giving up. No, let us talk about food. That made me realise why Eleanor had been staring at the monitor all this time. It may just have been because she was feeling tense about this. She elegant and refined, with that stubbornness as a will as strong as steel. I thought someone who'd dress up as Susie Will to go on TV would be above the normal sort of tension others feel. But as we boarded, all the while we headed towards our destination on autopilot. Eleanor hadn't once looked over any of her work documents, rather she just simply stared off into space. That level of nervousness showed that she was just a normal girl. As we had nothing to talk about, the mechanical echoes of fuel combustion and stabilisers resounded through the ship. Reaching our destination and when simply confirming it, we'd finally bring closure to something rather important to us. That was clear when we thought about it. But regardless of the outcome, It should end rather cleanly. That's why we came all this way out here. I believed so, and I'm sure Eleanor did too. The ship guide indicator showed we were less than 10 minutes from our destination. We started to decelerate. If we looked out a window, we'd be able to confirm it. It didn't feel particularly tense, but I noticed that breaths I was letting out were similar to size. Was Avalon real, or a fraud? We came as far to check the groundwork, but a sensation suddenly crept over me. But even though I was on pretty certain results, checking on them simply because there was a chance felt logical to me as checking on stock trades. Being perfectly composed and rational in actions was impossible. Ella's face stiffened on the chair. Then, after you passed the 5-minute mark, I stood up. I mustn't be afraid, I told myself. It's about time. I called Eleanor. She looked at me and nodded. But she didn't stand. I was going to pick on her a bit, but when I saw how pale Eleanor's face had become, it hit me. How do you feel? Becoming ill and vomiting from tension does happen. During really rough trades, I'd clutch my stomach as I felt acid welling up. However, Eleanor bravely shook her head, putting her hands on the table, standing up. She appeared so unsteady, I reacted by reaching out to her. Her hands were shaking. You're too tense. I couldn't stand watching her, so I pushed my mouth up with my fingers and said that deliberately. As I'd expected, Eleanor's pride was wounded, and she sucked in a deep breath and glared at me. Shall I go look around in your place? Please don't insult me. She said that, but she didn't start walking. Then came the announcement that we were 3 minutes out. I looked at Eleanor, her lips were flattened into a tight, thin line. You won't laugh? What's there to laugh at? You mean... There's nothing wrong. About what? When I asked, Eleanor looked over at a display which indicated we were less than 2 minutes out. I looked too. I can't. Can't? She nodded firmly when spoke. I have astrophobia. Huh? When she said that, I remembered how unnaturally awkward she'd seemed about some things. Like not looking out of a window on the way over from the second floor, or the way station. That's what it was all about. Even now, Eleanor seemed like she might break down crying over her own cowardice. This had nothing to do with being a wealthy or noble. Quite simply, it was the pride of a single girl. 1 minute left. She squeezed her eyes shut and held back the tears. Of course she wanted to see it for herself, having spent so much more time on it than me, placing so much on the line, bracing herself in hot pursuit of Avalon. This was a phobia which no strength of will could overcome. Thus, her feet wouldn't move. But I wasn't disappointed in Eleanor. This happened sometimes, it really did. I pushed away the hand from that important person. Then, with my feet frozen in pace, I was pulled back by others so that I could begin to walk again. As I looked at Eleanor's eyes, I said, "We're going." Then I held out my hand. She looked at my hand, her lips trembling. Our hands met slowly, with 30 seconds to go. There's nothing to be afraid of. Let's go. I pulled Eleanor along, leading her out of the room. The windows were in filtering mode, yet the sun shone down even stronger, almost painfully bright. I pulled Eleanor to the window with 10 seconds left. I think that's the first time you'll probably see him raising his fingers. I don't think this is going to be the front image. I think I might use this elsewhere. She had her back to the window, looking at me as if she was relying on me. I grasped Eleanor's hand, swaying up and down slowly, and said, "Ready?" And that childish thing sent her into a burst of laughter, even though her face was a bit distorted. 1 second left. Go! I then switched over into translucent mode and looked out the window with Eleanor. The solar rays exposed all the silvery lunar surface. We came all this way because of two separate yet bizarrely connected events that occurred in the tiny lunar capital. As I looked out the scene from the window, held tightly onto Eleanor's hand. Wondered if my grip was hurting her. But with just as much strength, Eleanor returned that grip. This tiny satellite moon floated in the vastness of outer space. I had no idea which emotion I should feel as I looked out at the expanding scene before me. And this place that looked like it might be the very end of everything. What brought me back to my senses was the sound of Eleanor sniffling. Improperly, unconsciously, she wiped away her tears with a hand I was holding onto. Then recalled I was there. She looked up at me a bit startled, but smiled as if tears welled up. Then, when struck by the sun's rays, her platinum blonde hair looked as if it was woven from a silver thread. Haru, she said my name and looked out again. We shall be quite busy. The way Eleanor said that was so like her, I couldn't help but laugh. But she was right. As Eleanor and I held hands before us, there was nothing more than emptiness. An empty, endless wasteland. Interesting. Join me next time when we continue our search of a lunar surface. As ever, thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.